the New York Times has caught Democrats and Republicans doing something, well, I would consider it funny and sad at the same time. It turns out about 42 congressmen, 22 Republicans, and 20 Democrats essentially gave the same speech on health care reform. Now, wait a minute. How is that possible? They totally disagree on health care reform. One side's all voting yes, the other side's all voting no. How can they be giving the same speech? Well, it's because lobbyists wrote it for them and handed it to the congressman, and the congressman, well, their staff claims to have read it, and some made minor changes to it, but they all submitted it to be part of the record on the health care reform debate. Now, which means that they didn't actually get on the floor of the House and read it, but it's as if they read it. They come in and they hand it in, and they go, let this show for the record that I stated this, right? And they walk away. And New York Times, great journalism here by Robert Pear, looks through it and he's like, wait a minute. That Republican just said the same thing as that Democrat, and that Democrat, and that Republican. And it turns out they got an email, and they found out that the source is Genentech, and that is a very large biotech firm, and they have hired lobbyists, 2 Washington law firms, who wrote the statements, handed it to all these congressmen who do their bidding, and said, submit this to the record. Bow your head. I don't know if they threw in the gratuitous bow your head, but they did. When they asked the congressman, well, look, it looks like you guys have all received a lot of money from the same biotech companies, and you all read the same statement and submitted it for the record. You think there might be a coincidence? There might be some sort of connection, or just a coincidence? And the congressman were like, oh, no, financial considerations? How dare you? Go. Look, unfortunately, the list includes old friends of the show like Bill Pascrell from New Jersey, which is a shame. Okay, he's got a quote in there saying, look, my staff looked at it, and I should have looked at it better, my bad, etc. Joe Wilson from South Carolina, also on the same list. Now, what's going to get Bill Pascrell to agree with Joe Wilson? And you know what the answer is? Money. Okay? And I told you, I gave you a story, it was a little while ago, about a week to 2 weeks ago, about how the biotech companies were the most successful in buying the politicians. They had a crushing vote in Waxman's committee against Waxman to extend the amount of time that they would get to keep their patents. Okay? So the longer they keep their patents, the more profits they make. In fact, those profits are well into the billions. I mean, by the end of 10-year period, it was hundreds of billions extra that they were making because of this bill. It was enormously important to them. And they also spend more than almost anyone. And the Time magazine had a great story about this, where they showed that already in about 6 months in the beginning of 2009, they had spent over $100 million lobbying Congress. That was $609,000 a day that they gave in lobbying money and directly to congressmen. So they spent the most, and they got the most loyalty from both Democrats and Republicans. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I hate to bring you the harsh realities of life. But if you spend enough money, you can buy congressmen on both sides. One little cute part of this is in the prepared statements that the lobbyists sent, they pretend as if they're speaking on the floor of the House, as if the congressmen are actually speaking. They don't. They just handed them in, right? But it says on there things like, I reserve the right to disagree with the great gentleman from the other side. You're like, why would you write that down if you didn't give a speech? And the second part of it that's so funny is how they're pretending to disagree with the other side. Well, it's the same speech. They all agree. Now, why do the Republicans agree? They say, this bill is terrible, et cetera, and that's written in the beginning, like I don't agree with this bill. I love the part about biotech. That kicks ass. We all agree. And then they ask the Republicans and the Democrats, and the Democrats are like, job creation. It was because of job creation. And the Republicans come up with a different answer as to why it was, but they all agree. That biotech money was delicious. And that's how your Congress works, ladies and gentlemen.
Can't get enough of the Young Turks? Well, then subscribe to the TYT's YouTube channel. What's the matter with you?